What is the right way to play the high stakes fantasy football FFPC main event and Football Guys Players Championship lineups this weekend? Who do you need to pick up if you have waivers alive still in the rest of the 2022 HSFF Hour season? And what advice can you take from a guy who is in the top 20 in the FFPC Football Guys Players Championship, Football Guys FPC championship round going forward here? That is all the questions that we are going to ask tonight. The 18th place player in the the Football Guys Players Championship round. Corey Docherty is going to join us tonight. Farrell Elliott is here. I'm Eric Balkman. Stick around. Your high stakes fantasy football hour starts now.
Stay under pressure. I've seen
Broadcast live and heard around the world, you are now watching the most entertaining hour of radio on the planet. Welcome to the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour presented by MyFFPC.com with your hosts Eric Balkman and Farrell Elliott. The High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour is your home for analysis from the best players in the world. And now, because no one else was available, here are Eric Balkman and Farrell Elliott.
solace in the scripture. Are we not all our father's sons? I became a man, nobody ever told me what a man was.
Welcome in to the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour for Friday, December 16th, 2022. I am your host, Eric Balkman from the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour, which you're watching right now. The RotoViz High Stakes Lowdown, which you watched on Tuesday. And of course, the High Stakes Fantasy Football Show on the Better Sports Network, which aired Wednesday with myself and Mike Shope on the Better Sports Network, as well as Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch, as well as YouTube. Hopefully you caught that. If not, hopefully we'll give you enough advice to get you primed for a $500,000 win or a $1 million win, depending upon if you're playing in the Football Guys Players Championship or the FFPC main event going forward. I want to remind you to play the FFPC weekly challenge. There's no draft, no salary cap in that. Just choose 10 players if you're playing with the slim format with no kickers and defenses. Choose 12 players if you're playing if you're playing with kickers and defenses. Choose 12 players by Sunday's kickoff. If you want to play without the kickers and defenses, the slim format, you only have to pick 10 players. Just choose them by Sunday's kickoff. We have Saturday football this week, which is eligible for the FFPC weekly challenge. Only one player per NFL team. $35 to enter, $200 to enter, 30-team contest, 100-team contest, or if you want to play in the 10-team contest, just beat the other 9 players that you have going against you. And if you do that, you will get a free entry into the 2023 FFPC main event. You can play for $1 million in that contest, and with just the cost of $200, and you just got to beat out 9 other players. That is going on right now at myffpc.com. If you want to play for a $500,000 grand prize or a $100,000 grand prize in the FFPC playoff challenge or the Football Guys playoff challenge, which is going on right now, we opened up registration for that, I would say about 2 weeks ago, roughly. You can join that right now. $35 to win 100 grand. $200 to win 500 grand. That's all at myffpc.com. In case you missed it, the RotoViz High Stakes Lowdown on Tuesday night at 10/9 Central, we had the FFPC main event 12th place overall finisher, Jerry Kaforski, on that program. We talked to him about roster team management going forward, start sits for week 15, as he is going for a $1 million grand prize and much, much more. You want to check that out at youtube.com/FFPC fantasy or rotoviz.com/podcast. Remember to like, subscribe, comment, share, and get notified so you don't miss episodes like that or episodes like tonight, where we will have on Corey Docherty, the pride of Canada, as he is trying to win a $500,000 grand prize in the Football Guys Players Championship going forward. It's going to be a lot of fun. Remember to like this video, subscribe to this channel, comment on this video, share this video to all your friends, and get notified with that little notification bell. The more we do that, the better the content gets, the more videos we can put out. You probably saw the FFPC Week 15 preview with Aiden LaCorey and Dave Serpoli. Stuff like that is going to get more and more prevalent. Stuff like this with myself, Farrell Elliott, and Corey Docherty is going to get more and more prevalent, where we can interview the guys that are getting things done, that are winning a lot of money in this contest going forward. When you like, subscribe, comment, share, and get notified. Without further ado, he is at J Farrell Elliott on Twitter. Check out the Kentucky Fantasy Football State Championship at kffsc.com. The definitive commissioner of fantasy football, Farrell Elliott. Welcome aboard, man. We're kicking off the championship round of the FFPC main event and the Football Guys Players Championship. How are you sitting on those contests, my friend?
Oh, I'm in one, and I got a chance. And if Ramondre Stevenson will stay healthy, I'll have a better chance. And if a certain young tight end from Tennessee continues his touchdown making ways, I'll have even a better chance. So yeah, I'm very happy about where we are. I'm very happy in the Kentucky Fantasy Football State Championship, where we have 3 weeks to go, that you, Balky, have teams that are in the hunt, that good friend Jeff Joaquin was leading.
My bad. Keep going.
It's okay, because when you mention Jeff Joaquin, and it's very important to note to everyone that Jeff Joaquin, a noted musician before he got in the music side of the business, business side of music, but nevertheless, his band Gray Factor from 1979 is re-releasing their full volume of records and music this year. So when you see Jeff at the draft next year, you can talk to him about Gray Factor, something that he'll never bring up. The lead singer of what it's an interesting genre, and I'll let him tell you more about it. But Gray Factor records are available, and Jeff Joaquin leading the KFFSC and with the team in the championship as well of the FFPC. So hey, we spent 10 minutes talking about him and how great Dave Turp is and all that kind of stuff. I think we should talk about the fact that last week we were asked some challenging questions, and we got some stuff right. Not only were we right about Brock Purdy once, we've been right about him twice. He went in Seattle, and he played like a stud. And we were asked about Homer. Would you play Homer? Would you play? We said Homer really doesn't have the goods to be a full-time running back, and the dreadful fumble that he had last night is perhaps evident of him trying to take a bigger role and not being able to deliver. There sure is a lot of great football in it, Balky.
It is, and I think one of the things I have been asked about within the last 48 hours, Farrell, and this is not pertaining to 2022 fantasy so much, but what's your best estimation if Brock Purdy continues this ascent, right? If he continues to do what he's been doing so well, if he continues to lead this team, not only through the rest of the regular season, but through the playoffs, maybe he even gets to the NFC Championship game. Maybe he gets the Niners to the Super Bowl this year. What do the Niners do next year? Is it Trey Lance's team or is it Brock Purdy's team? Your thoughts?
That's a very good question. Yeah, if it's not broke, you're not going to fix it, and if it's you're not going to shoot the horse that won the race. So Trey Lance will become a very interesting side note, and this is why you have 7 rounds of the draft. And you know what? They drafted him, and Mr. Irrelevant, he's the last pick, but he was relevant to them because they wanted to make sure they got him. If they had waited, the agent, the player, there's no way they sign in San Francisco and jump into that situation. So they've had an idea about what this player could bring, and I'm sure everyone in the 49ers organization busy patting themselves on the back for what they did in the draft. And this player's going to hit a roadblock. He's going to have some hiccups. It's not going to be perfect, but it's been about as good as anyone could hope so far.
It's one of those things where I just think it's weird to think about, like, if Brock Purdy leads this team to the Super Bowl, you're still rolling with Trey Lance next year. And then I think about it like, well, what happens if New England would have gone back to Drew Bledsoe instead of Tom Brady? And stuff like that, because obviously the fortunes, not only of the Patriots have changed, but the rest of the NFL has changed going forward. And I think that weighs heavy on Kyle Shanahan, John Lynch, and the rest of the Niners brass going forward. I don't think Jimmy Garoppolo bears into their plans. There's a lot of stuff to learn about Brock Purdy. I think as a lot of defenses will be watching a lot of Purdy film at Iowa State going forward for the remainder of the season to try to figure him out. But right now he's running at hot. And I think for FFPC players, you got to understand, and I don't think I'm stealing any of the thunder from the stuff I have prepared for tonight, but whether you have Kittle, whether you have Ayuk, whether you have McCaffrey, so on and so forth, I don't think it drastically changes whether it's Garoppolo, whether it's Lance, whether it's Purdy going forward, because I think it is such a system that Kyle Shanahan has set up there that I think Purdy can still get it done. He's mentally, it seems like he's in a good place. Yeah. Athletically, he does enough to get the team moving forward down the field, moving the chains. And at that point, you're starting Kittle, you're starting McCaffrey. Ayuk, I know, was a letdown last night, but I'm going to go on a limb and say I think Ayuk could still play going forward, especially without the presence of Deebo Samuel. I think the Niners are a fascinating situation. We only scraped the surface on Brock Purdy. We will see what happens going forward. I want to move things forward with Fantasy Flash and move it to New York, back East Coast. Zach Wilson is going to get the start this week, Farrell, against, the Lions. Adam Schefter reporting this on Twitter early. Now, Zach Wilson, over the course of this week, has taken the majority of the first team snaps. Mike White has already admitted to the media he does have a fractured rib. Zach Wilson was struggling with the yips, according to Robert Saleh, the head coach for the New York Jets. Now, I think the big thing with this is you weren't necessarily loving starting Mike White unless you were in a super flex league. The thing that this comes down to is like guys like Garrett Wilson, guys like Elijah Moore, guys like Tyler Conklin, even Zonovan Knight going forward, which we'll get into a little bit further in the show. I guess the big thing I want to understand from you, what are you doing with Garrett Wilson, Farrell? If you own Wilson, knowing that Zach Wilson is getting the start over Mike White, does Wilson become a bench for you in the championship round, or are you still playing him knowing that Wilson has got to be competent enough to get him the football where he can still put up a 15 or 20-point week here in week 15?
This is a rare event where I like a player for fantasy that I don't necessarily like as a player on the NFL. You'll hear me from time to time say, is a great player, but you just don't want him for fantasy football. Wilson is just fine for Garrett Wilson and all the other receivers. We go back to a guy that on Halloween weekend, 355 yards against the Patriots. He also threw like 3 picks, but that doesn't matter from our perspective. We want to know if he can get the ball to these receivers. Yes, he can. And look, every quarterback goes through the yips. If Josh Allen throws another one at the foot of a player and complains about it, are we to assume that he's at yips, or is he just going through a bad run? And then the player gets the benefit of basically the worst that could happen. The player has lost focus. He lost focus you talked about Brock Purdy's professionalism. He looks a little bit like a deer in the headlights. He looks a little bit like he's been programmed. He's afraid to get out of the box conversationally. Wilson, in a situation when they ask him, did the offense let the defense down? His one-word answer, no. And I think that's what caused him all the problems in the coaching staff and somewhat loss of respect from the players. But look, he's had 2 weeks to do makeup. He's had 2 weeks to watch the game. Players play better after they watch the game. Start all your Jets. Don't fall for it against the Detroit Lions, a team that really has difficulty defending and where you're going to play a lot of points. Get your guys in there and be happy with Zach Wilson. It won't be as clean as Mike White. Mike White's a player that we love rooting for, and I've been talking all year about why it wasn't White, why he doesn't get a chance. But, it's Wilson this week. Play your Jets.
Let me ask you this, Farrell, because I answered this question on Twitter probably about 3 hours or so ago. I had a question. Garrett Wilson, who is going up against the Lions, obviously at home this week, should be, I think the total net is like 45, 46. He had a choice between him or Christian Kirk, who is going to be at home against the Dallas Cowboys defense this week. I advised him on Kirk because of Zach Wilson starting. I like Trevor Lawrence better, who I know is listed as questionable. I think he goes this week. I said Kirk over Wilson. How would you rate this?
It's hard to put Kirk on the bench.
Garrett Wilson?
We've had a hard time getting to the fact that we really believed in Kirk. You remember the $74 million contract, and we said, I don't know, we got to follow the money. Yes, Kirk has had up and down moments, but so have all the receivers from the Jets. There's talent at both these teams at the position, but you have to like Kirk, you have to like Wilson as number one guys in their respective teams. But Kirk, we're going to give the edge to him.
You are saying Kirk. I am saying Kirk. Hudson Kern-Reeve is chiming in on Christian Kirk as well.
Well, yeah, he's a sharp guy.
He's a sharp guy, obviously. The definitive definitive fantasy football player from the Ivy League.
You've got everything. You need to get your beard back tonight. You need a drink and you need to get your beard back. But you guys, you're so
it's growing.
Did you notice I'm in a festive red holiday turtleneck?
Hallelujah! Yeah, that looks good on you, my friend.
Had a haircut, lost 8 pounds.
Is your hair that thick?
Yeah, really.
You get a haircut?
Yeah, the women bag it up and take it home with them. Women that are over 70.
No, yes. That is not true.
Older women.
No.
That's.
Farrell is going to be.
But we digress. Zach Wilson might be interested, but who knows?
Women of all ages,
yeah,
are big fans of not only Farrell's hair, but Farrell in general. All right, so let's talk about the Tennessee Titans here, Farrell. Treylon Burks is probably going to miss this week. He's got a concussion situation going on. Chig Okonkwo is a guy who caught all 6 of his passes this past week.
He's told everybody to play him.
Right. He's been rising up high stakes players, not draft boards, but start-sit boards.
Yep.
When they consider
start-sit boards. I got one.
When you had Chig Okonkwo on the waiver wire in, I don't know, I want to say you would know this better than me. Week 10 or week 11, that's when he got scraped up in a lot of leagues. And I think he's on a lot of teams right now who are in the championship round. In fact, I brought this up with Mike Shope on the High Stakes Fantasy Football Show on the Better Sports Network on Wednesday. Chig Okonkwo in the FFPC main event is the second most owned championship round tight end behind Travis Kelce. In other words, all the people that are going for $1 million grand prize, Travis Kelce is the most owned tight end. Okonkwo is number 2. This is a guy that I think at this point in the season, when you are looking for any help, anything you can get at tight end, Okonkwo makes a lot of sense. And I think Okonkwo has to be in week 15 lineups this week. Okonkwo for the Tennessee Titans, is at Los Angeles going up against the Chargers, not a vaunted defense. If you are down in the main event championship leaderboard, if you are down in the FPC championship leaderboard, this is a way you can make up a lot of ground. I love Okonkwo this week, Farrell.
Yeah, beloved playing partner of mine, Trevor Holton, I picked him up and we paired him with Kelce. And as owners prepare to get into the dynasty drafts the spring, especially the new ones, this is the type of tight end that you should look at. And if you've been forward thinking, this is the type of tight end that we're going to see do well in the NFL. The move tight end, the F or X tight end, as I believe some teams, in a 240 pounds, 245 pounds, plays like a wide receiver, not asked to block a great deal, has wonderful hands, great contact balance, could probably play receiver, could probably play running back, could probably play anything on the team. That's what we want in the FFPC. And this is the Tennessee Titans' number 1 wide receiver. It doesn't matter if we're talking about Burks or Bobby Trees or the kid I like, Westbrook-Ikhine. All of them take a back seat to this player because he's being defended by linebackers and he runs past them all day. This is fantastic situation for any fantasy team that has rostered him. And if you have him rostered and leave him on your bench, shame on you.
Exactly. We have Corey Docherty, the pride of Canada, noshing on some poutine in the green room because he is the pride of Canada. We got some cheese curds, some gravy, some lovely bacon, all simmering for him right
from
back
Montreal?
there. I think he is from the Ontario province. I could be wrong on that, but we will talk with him about that shortly. Before we get to him, Jeff Wilson, questionable for the game tomorrow night, Farrell, against the Buffalo Bills, which has reportedly going to be played in a lot of snow. Could be as much as 430 feet of snow in Orchard Park. I don't know what's going to happen with that, but anything's possible. He had a limited session yesterday, limited again today. I am of the opinion that Raheem Mostert is the guy you want to play if you're looking for a Dolphins running back.
Oh, yeah.
I have cooled on Jeff Wilson this week, the pass catcher in that Dolphins offense. I don't know if I want to play him in week 15, but Mostert, I think there's something to like there. What do you think about this Dolphins-Bills matchup when you consider the Miami backfield?
I'm always looking for a reason to get Mostert on my team, and then always looking for a reason to get him in the lineup. And, everyone needs to realize who Mostert is. I keep talking about the fact that he's injury prone. Yes, sometimes that's the case, but Mostert, the hurdler at Purdue, and he's overcome and been tested so much athletically. He's still this year over 600 yards rushing, 4.5 yards a carry, and we've yet to see the real Mostert. We've got 3 more weeks here of where we just might do it. There was a question in the chat room about what do you do with these players in the snow? He is a disaster for defenders in the snow. And, we have a guy in Canada coming on, he probably wants to laugh about when we start talking about snow. But snow is a problem in football when it is accumulating and when it is mixed with wind. If it's just snowing, there's not much ice in it, you're going to be okay. But for fantasy football purposes, what you don't really want to do is play a defense in the snow. Offense knows where it's going. Defense has to move. But the kind of player that you're dealing with, good pass pattern runners for both these teams. Look, you want to try to defend Tyreek Hill, try to defend him when you're moving on a slippery surface. He knows where he's going and you don't. It's a nightmare. And as long as the ball can be gripped and caught, as long as the receivers aren't dealing with too much precipitation in their face, they're going to be all right. Don't get all worried about the snow. That's not an issue. Now, if it's blowing, sideways into your face, and then that's a whole other thing.
That is a whole other thing, for sure. I got a text message today, or not a text message, but a DM on Twitter about benching Tyreek Hill this week, and because of the snow. And I said, look, man, I have Tyreek Hill in a decent amount of leagues. I am not benching him in any of them. As you just articulated, Farrell, the offensive player knows where he's going. The defensive player does not. This is a massive boon for players like Jalen Waddle and especially Tyreek Hill. I know the total in this game is only 43.5. Okay, I get it. Like, this is probably not going to be a massive, 10 catch for 240 yards and 3 touchdown performance from Tyreek Hill. You don't always necessarily need that, especially in the championship round of the Football Guys Player Championship or the FFPC main event. You get a good week out of Tyreek Hill, you're going to be happy. I think you're going to get a good week out of him this week.
I'll talk more about snow. One more thing. If
you're
at the game and you look and you see players that are huddling around the heaters, you see players that normally don't wear sleeves, but they're packed into sleeves. The idea from the player standpoint is don't change anything about what you do. If you're a Dolphins player and you don't wear sleeves, don't go out in this game in sleeves. Don't stay on the sideline and watch the game. Don't be over by the heater. Stay engaged with the game. I've been to our friend joining us from Canada. I've been to 2 Grey Cups, almost froze to death in Saskatchewan. It's because I wasn't playing and wasn't moving. These guys stay engaged in the game, they're going to be fine. Stay engaged mentally, and it'll work out just well. It'll be interesting to see the Dolphins players, how they come out for warm-ups, what they wear, what they look like in the uniform. If you see Tyreek Hill show up, he doesn't have sleeves on, that's a good sign.
It's a good sign, for sure. And remember, these Dolphins guys, they've been playing in Florida at home. They've been playing in Los Angeles on the road. Now they get to Orchard Park, which if there's a good week to go to Orchard Park this season, it'd be this week.
It makes great things to read. It's great to read about, and it's great back and forth.
It is going to be great back and forth. I cannot wait for that game tomorrow between the Bills and the Dolphins, almost as much as I cannot wait for our next guest, which is coming on right now. He's been playing fantasy football for roughly a dozen years. His home team is a 12-team half-point PPR two-keeper auction draft. Fairly competitive, not as competitive as the Football Guys Players Championship. He started playing in the FFPC this past year and really enjoyed the high-stakes leagues, including the Football Guys Players Championship, and obviously this year with the main event. Right now, he sits going into the championship round 18th overall in the Football Guys Players Championship. Once again, the pride of Canada, which I think is a legion now of about 12, 15, maybe 20 players on this show.
Very fickle. You've got a lot of prides of Canada.
He's the newest. He's the newest pride of Canada, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome him on right now at Corey Docs _. He is Corey Docherty. Welcome into the program tonight, Corey. Congratulations on your success. This is your second year playing in the FFPC. You got to be loving life right now, man.
Yeah, it's good. Can you guys hear me okay, by the way?
You're coming through perfect.
Good, okay, yeah. Yeah, I'm enjoying it. I love it. It's I wish I could talk more about it with everybody, but it doesn't seem like too many people are on the same level.
So let me ask you this, okay? You were playing in this 12-team half-point PPR auction draft kind of quasi mixture league. Mm-hmm. How did you hear about the FFPC? How did you get involved? And obviously your second year, and now you're in the top 20 going into the championship round. This has to be blowing your mind right now.
Yeah, so I work I'm a correctional officer, Windsor, Ontario. It's about 4 hours south of Toronto, about 20 minutes away from the Detroit border.
It's Detroit.
And one of my coworkers was asking me, I was talking to Xeroff one day about fantasy. And he asked me if I had ever heard of FFPC. I said no, and then he turned me on to it, and I've been hooked ever since. Shout out Dave Cannell.
Good job, Dave.
We appreciate that. Just real quick, I know Farrell wants to ask you about Tua Tagovailoa and the snow that we're going to be seeing tomorrow night in Buffalo. But when you drafted this team, and I know you drafted several Football Guys teams this year, but Corey, tell me a little bit about when you looked at your team right after you had drafted it. What was your sort of immediate grade of the team afterwards, and how well you thought this team would do in the long run this season?
I think whenever I draft a team, I always immediately feel like it's strong. And then I look it over and I start overestimating, and then maybe come back down to earth a little bit on it. I know I really like the Austin Eckler. I was super high on him coming in. I can grab him anywhere I could.
And you were in the minority there, wasn't he, Balky?
I would say so.
Yeah.
I mean, you cashed in on. Well, I mean, we could talk about your whole draft. I mean, I think you got some really good values. Kenneth Walker, I know you got in the middle of this draft as well. But Eckler, and I'll tell you this, Farrell, too. Well, Farrell and Corey, I was in a Better Sports Network draft on Wednesday night, and for 2023, first overall pick was not me, but the first overall pick in that draft was Austin Eckler. And this is a guy that I think, as we look forward to the Football Guys Players Championship, the FFPC main event next year, this is a guy that we have to look at seriously at the 101. And you didn't invest the 101 on this, Corey. You got him later on in the draft, and he's been paying dividends for you big time.
Yeah, he sure has. He's just so versatile with his catching and even his rushing. I love the Chargers offense. I grabbed any piece of them I could in most of my drafts this year. And I do like them going forward. And even just for the, not even fantasy, but for the Chargers alone, I like them in the playoffs this year a lot.
When they're healthy, they're great. I want to get to Tua real quick. I'm glad to know that you're in Windsor. Question: did you attend the draft at Planet Hollywood, or did you play online?
No, it was online.
Okay, you must make your plans to attend the draft in Planet Hollywood. And I heard that
I've been to Planet Hollywood before, but
yeah, well, let me tell you, if the FFPC is not drafting there, don't go there. We have other things to talk about. But when the FFPC is there, that's when you need to be there. When the KFFSC, Windsor, which is Detroit, which is just north of Kentucky. We call it Northern Kentucky down here. So you can come down here and play in the KFFSC. But what he said, Balky, was he wishes he could be with more people to talk about fantasy football that's played on this level. That's what we got to do. We got to get you to Planet Hollywood where you can hang out with some of these guys in the chat room. We got to get you to Kentucky. When you come to Kentucky, I'll introduce you to Danny Mueller and a guy named Jay Reed, and they will take you down a a wormhole of fantasy football that you may not get out of. But until then, let's talk about Tua.
Hold on. Let me just say this. It's a wormhole you may not get out of, but it could be a very profitable.
It could be. Yeah. You walk around with those and it's got, like, gold is falling out of their pocket, and you pick it up and they don't want it back. You just put it in yours and keep going. The Tua. You heard what we said about the cold weather in Buffalo. It's not to repeat ourselves. Now, here's the guy that perhaps could have some challenges. It has a lot to do about history of play. It has a lot to do about hand size and how he grips the ball. I think if Tua is your quarterback, you're in on Tua through all elements, rain, sleet, snow. Your thoughts on Tua?
I wish I could say I'm the biggest Tua guy, but
you're not.
I watching him, and I think he's in a good situation there in Miami. I think Tyreek and Jalen, they're
what are you going to do with him this weekend?
Well,
you got to tell us. That's part of being on the show.
If you have better options, I would pivot. If you have better options, maybe like if you have a Kirk Cousins, maybe even Kirk Cousins, Indy.
And you could have better options based on where you got to in the draft. I mean, you could have quality options, I suppose.
For sure.
Okay,
yeah, like
fair enough.
I know there's like the whole, even the draft debate between him and Justin Herbert. Like, of course, I'm all over Justin Herbert this week too. So yeah, if you could pivot, I would say pivot. If not, limit your expectations, I think, and especially the bad weather. Yeah. By the way, have you guys seen the video that somebody posted where they mirrored his throwing motion to where it made it look like he was right-handed?
And it's beautiful, right? Is it not beautiful, Corey?
It did. It changed my mind a little bit, but I saw a few of those downfield throws to Tyreek where Tyreek had to run back 20 yards to get it, and then brings me back down to earth a little bit.
A little bit, yeah. Speaking of Tyreek Hill, we don't like to put words in the mouth of our guests. But, Corey, you said Tua Tagovailoa, you may want to pivot somewhere else. What about if you have Tyreek Hill? What about if you have Jalen Waddle? I only bring this up because I've had people text me, DM me on Twitter, and say, what about these guys with the snow this week? I said you still got to play them, okay, with Hill and Waddle, because you probably don't have better options, right? Is that the same mentality that you have with these guys? Just to reassure our viewers tonight, you got to be playing Hill, you got to be playing Waddle, regardless of the snow or not.
So I think Hill's an auto start. I feel like Miami will find a way to get him the ball, whether that's jet sweep or any rushing plays. They're going to get the ball in his hands because he's so fast. Waddle, I would start Waddle, but I would be a bit timid just with his injury past too, playing in the rough weather. I would be a bit timid playing Waddle. But Tyreek to me is an auto start.
Did you grow up in Windsor?
I did.
Okay. Well, actually, see, he's actually from Detroit, Balky, and there's a dome over his stadium. I don't know if you're qualified to talk about snow like we thought you were going to. Are you, bitch? No,
hey, I'm a Titans guy, and I'm talking about how much I like the Chargers this week. It's killing me.
You know what's funny about that is I have to look this up. We might have an email for you on the Titans going forward. Before we get to that, I do want to ask you a little bit about your team specifically, because I think this can help out a lot of people who are in the Football Guys Players Championship and the FFPC main event going forward here. Your lineup specifically, Corey, is pretty much, I look at it set itself for week 15, 16 and 17. We'll get to that. But have you considered, knowing that you have Patrick Mahomes as your quarterback, have you considered the prospects of Kadarius Toney, the prospects of Juju Smith-Schuster to vault yourself up even higher on the leaderboard with that hookup with Kansas City? Have you considered starting those guys? Because I know they're on your bench right now. Have you considered starting those Chiefs receivers this week?
So when I draft my teams, one of my main things I look for is a stack between quarterback and wide receiver. And this team was Juju and Mahomes. and I was going to ride with them every week. I just love the matchup. This week, last second, I pivoted off Juju for Kenneth Walker.
Mm.
You know, he put up 12 points. He was only projected for 10. I still have a chance to put Juju in. I would have to bench Devonta Smith. I don't think I'm going to do that. So I think I'm going to ride with Devonta Smith there. And we'll see if it paid off. I don't know. The Chiefs-Texans game this week, the game could be over in the first half. He might not have a target in the second half. So if they, you know, if Jerick McKinnon and Pacheco and Kelsey go off for, you know, 2 touchdowns in the first half, you know, he might not even see the field in the second half. So I was just trying to.
There's a lot of young guys in that receiver core that are getting some time that they're going to get a shot to.
Yeah, I like Sky Moore this week for sure. I like Sky Moore to maybe get a touchdown. But Juju, just with to me, it's a 1/2 game, and I just didn't want to take the chance.
What are the chances? Again, not that I don't want to say week 14 as a correlation with week 15, but the Cowboys were big favorites against the Texans this past week, and they had to sweat it out till the deep portion of the fourth quarter in that game. Kansas City, 14.5 point favorites in a game with a 49.5 point total. Clearly, Corey and Farrell, if you are rooting, or if you have any Chiefs going, you are rooting for Rex Burkhead to be the hero of the first half. And if he is in that game, certainly now you're looking at some potential big-time points from Juju Smith-Schuster and Kadarius Toney. If he's active, we don't know if he's going to be active in the second half of that game. But that's what you're hoping for right now. I don't necessarily know if that's going to happen, but certainly that's something we can look at.
Corey, we're busy self-validating on the show this week. You know, last week we could have got you another Football Guys team if you had wandered over to one of the casinos and made you a play on the Texans. We told them there was too many points in that game, and we were correct about that. And even though this is certainly not a gambling show, it is a understanding of who is going to be competitive. And so, yeah, and I love watching the games sometimes for just the glimpses of what you can see. There's a player out of Seattle that's always interested me, Marquise Goodwin. He's stayed in the league a lot of years. He came in the league way back in 2013 with Buffalo. Now Tyler Lockett, who's had a real rebirth and ascension as a talent. It'd be interesting to see where he goes in the draft next August. But in regards to Goodwin, I think this is the kind of player that if you have rostered, and it can't be the big roster percentage, but if you have rostered, I'm very, very comfortable in playing this player because I think he's a legitimate number 2 wide receiver in that offense, or definitely a flex if you've got a good team in the championship. Your thoughts on Marquise Goodwin, or someone you like similar to him?
Yeah, no, I do like Marquise Goodwin going forward. He's fast, and he has good hands too. He's sneaky good for Seattle's 3rd wide receiver. I would feel pretty comfortable if I was Geno Smith throwing him the ball.
Yeah, I do too. I just like the way he plays. It is interesting to me. I saw him. Some of these teams have veteran receivers, and you realize their best football is behind them. And then some of them have players that, when called upon, really, really step up. And this is an example of 2 players that I thought might be declining in their career. Lockett now injured, a wonderful season, and Goodwin is continuing to be a force on a team that looks like they're going to be in the playoffs. So, yeah, I like it.
Farrell, let me ask you this. If you were in a league, and I'm sure you're in some leagues right now that still have waivers going,
yes,
is Marquise Goodwin a guy that you would blow, 60, 70% of your remaining fab budget on to get him on your team?
Yeah, because that'd be $2. It'd be $2.
$2. Okay, I get it. But I mean, it could only be a 1-week thing, because the latest information we got on Lockett is he may only miss this coming week, and then he'll be back the following week. But what about Marquise? Because Goodwin, refresh me if I'm wrong, guys. Does he not get the Kansas City Chiefs next week? Does he not get a team that is going to be throwing the football, that is going to be putting up a lot of points, where Geno Smith and the Seattle offense has to keep up?
Right.
You talk about players that you want to have an effect on your team the remainder of the season. We're almost at the end of the season right now. And even if Goodwin's impact is only in this game, where maybe he can go 6 for 80 and a touchdown, or 8 for 120 and 2 touchdowns, like, it's worth it at this point, right, Farrell?
It's 33% of what you've got left in the season if he has one good game. And so you take a look at Goodwin, you take a look at the quarterback. The quarterback has proven that he's looking for receivers that run correct routes and he can get them the ball. That was proven with Metcalf on Thursday night. If you notice, Metcalf wasn't getting separation, but the ball was right there to catch. And Geno has been surprisingly accurate. Or people didn't label him as an accurate passer. So Goodwin, being the veteran that he is, runs the right route, ends up in the right position. He's going to get the ball, and he's catching the ball. So yeah, I feel very, very good about that. And guys, later on we'll talk about Ramondre Stevenson. It's all in the chat room. I'm in a situation right now where I hope he plays. My goodness, if he doesn't, Latavius Murray is my guy. So that's a big, that's a big, and Latavius Murray has contributed, but he doesn't have those kind of players around him. If you're going to look at a guy that has a chance for a big 1 week game, look at a guy that's got contributing players around him. So that's what I'm looking for.
Okay, so let's talk about Murray for a second, in a very brief second, because I have him going in a KFFSC league, Farrell, where I'm trying to win the 12-team league, and I need a good performance from him, and I'm not feeling great about it. But let's open it up to people who are looking at the $500,000 grand prize, the $1 million grand prize in the FFPC main event. When we talk about the Patriots backfield, Ramondre Stevenson has been a huge get for them this season. He is officially questionable going forward against the Las Vegas Raiders this week. That was the latest update we got roughly 5.5 hours or so ago. He is questionable. Corey, let me throw this to you. What's your feeling on Damian Harris if Ramondre Stevenson is inactive? And the caveat on this is the Patriots don't play till, I believe it's a 4:00 game on Sunday, which means that you're going to have all those 1:00 games behind you when you have to make the decision. And you're going to have 3 games on Saturday behind you as well if you have to make the Ramondre Stevenson decision. What are your thoughts on Damian Harris this week against the Raiders, if that's what it comes to?
So I like Damian Harris. This week, I would stay away. Bill Belichick, you never know who his guy is. It could be Pierre Strong, or what was that other Kevin? Is it Kevin Harris?
Kevin Harris. Yep.
Kevin Harris. It could be the other Harris. So I would stay away if you can. Going forward, if Ramondre is out for multiple weeks, and then you see another game from Damian Harris where he comes out and he's running the ball good, then I would go to him. But I would definitely need a week to see it first with him.
Farrell, are you of the same think tank here as Corey on the Patriots backfield going forward against the Raiders in Week 15?
To a degree. However, I'm not as wealthy at the position, so I would be probably playing all those guys and hoping for the best, hoping for that kind of situation that comes out. And I can't think of a guy better positioned. Balky certainly didn't know this because we had you coming on from Saskatchewan, pride of Canada that you are. And now we've learned that you are actually from Windsor/Detroit. And we also learned that you're a Tennessee Titan fan. And but most importantly, you're geographically positioned to talk to us about Jameson Williams. And your next chance to draft Jameson Williams will be at the Kentucky Fantasy Football Super Bowl party and draft, which I will be inviting you. And, I've got a trip down to Nashville. So, I've been looking for someone that I could get a Derrick Henry autograph on this football. And
look at that.
When you come here, I don't know if I'll see Derrick, but I will see somebody, I'm going there on a Tuesday, so it's on an off day. So who's ever in the training room, we'll get a Corey Knox Titan to come. That's what we'll do, Corey Knox. Now, okay, so let me ask you this. Talk to us about Jameson Williams. What's the vibe up there for this player? Will he continue to be a contributor? We know big things for him next year. We know huge things for him next year. Do you feel against the New York Jets this weekend and other teams going forward that this is a player that you could somehow get in your lineup? And if you've got him in best ball, you couldn't do anything about it, but just wait it out. Now you got a chance to shine.
Yeah, Jameson Williams, like he looked good that first game. He only had 2 targets. He had the one broken play that he sprung for the touchdown, which was nice. But the Lions fans are excited for him, and I work with a lot of them. I know a lot of them. They are excited for this offense next year, and I don't blame them one bit. As of this week against the Jets, they got a lot of mouths to feed there right now. I feel like Gardner's going to be all over St. Brown, so I would look more for like DJ Chark. If you could pivot to DJ Chark or even Josh Reynolds maybe, but it is tempting. It is tempting with Jameson Williams for sure. He's explosive, so all it takes is one play for him, and you can turn your whole week around.
Be nice to have a high ceiling Lions player next year. I got a feeling you'll be drafting this player.
Yeah, oh yeah.
All right, so I will say this. Take it for what you will, guys. But last night, in honor of the Seahawks 49ers game, I just wanted to chill out, watch a little football, have some good food. Got some takeout from Buffalo Wild Wings, which is literally right across the street from my house last night. Got one of their boneless wing specials, and one of the sauces I chose was the Sauce Gardner sauce. And I'll tell you this right now, it was delicious. Now, whether that means he's going to shut everything down against the Lions in Week 15, I don't know. But I'll tell you what, whatever this guy concocted with Buffalo Wild Wings, he's got a taste for it, and he's got a taste for defending the football too. So I love the sauce, and that's why I'm staying away from Detroit Lions going forward. My apologies to the commish Bryce, who is a massive Lions fan who is hoping for a win against the Jets this week. All right, let me ask you this. And we're talking with Corey Docherty, the pride of Canada, and 18th place in the Football Guys Players Championship, entering the championship round of the FPC as he's chasing a $500,000 grand prize. This is something that people have been battling with, Corey, over the last, I want to say like 3 or 4 weeks. Rachaad White versus Leonard Fournette in that backfield in Tampa. It certainly seems to me that White is getting the good touches with all those catches that he is getting in Tampa, but Leonard Fournette still making his presence felt. They are at home this week against a pretty good Cincinnati defense. They are getting 3.5 points, a total right in the middle of 40 and 50, 44.5 right now. What do you do if you have Rachaad White? What do you do if you have Leonard Fournette? Quite frankly, what do you do if you have both of them? What are you doing in Week 15 as far as your lineups go, Corey?
So once again, yeah, to me, it's a situation. If you could sit both of them, if you have better options, play them. Which I highly doubt you have 2 better options than that. But if I'm going one, I'm going Lenny.
Oh,
I'll tell you why. I know it. I love Rachaad White. I think next year he's going to be great. But this game could potentially be like the Houston-Kansas City game. It could be over in the first half. And who does Tom like to throw to on the dump offs? Leonard Fournette. And I can see him getting 8 catches, 70 yards, and a touchdown just through the air. I wouldn't be shocked one bit if I saw that. So if I had to go one, I would go Fournette. I'm not confident in either, but if I'm going one, I'm going Fournette.
All right. Again, Farrell, hold on 1 second. Corey, like I say, I don't want to put words in our guests' mouths. If you had Fournette and White, you specifically, 18th place in the Football Guys Players Championship, going into the championship round, you are benching White in favor of Leonard Fournette, correct?
Correct.
Got it. Farrell?
Well, okay, let's make while you were answering that, I thought this is a perfect question. Joshua Palmer. You've got the same situation. You've got Joshua Palmer, an elite developing wide receiver who's we patiently waited to see him on the field. He has flashed, especially while the other players are injured. Williams and now Keenan Allen back in a major way. I don't think you would bench Williams or Keenan Allen, but you don't have to get Jordan Palmer in your lineup. Would you play Palmer would you feel comfortable with no other Charger receiver in your lineup, playing Palmer as a flex position? Would you, if you had both two of the three Charger receivers and one of them being Palmer, would Palmer still see the field? Your thoughts, your beloved Chargers, tell us what you think about Palmer, because I'm a big fan.
Yeah, no, I love Palmer, and he's a Canadian boy too. I don't know if you guys knew that, but
oh yeah, we know.
I would play him. I think, like I said, get me any piece of the Chargers right now. I don't care. I think they're going to score, and they're going to score in bunches. With everybody healthy, that does make me a tad hesitant. Mike Williams looked good last week. Keenan looked good. But still, I like his skill set, and if depending on who I have on my bench, but if my team, if he seems like a good go, I would feel confident giving him a go.
Corey, Justin Herbert, Mike Williams, Keenan Allen, Joshua Palmer, Gerald Everett, they're all startable in the championship round for FFPC players, right?
Correct.
Okay. All right. I like this. I like this a lot, Farrell. We're getting some hardcore takes here.
Good stuff
that we don't always get on this show. And I shout out Corey for all this too, because I appreciate it. It's helping me, quite frankly, as I submit my lineups early Saturday morning. PSA, Woo! We got football, 3 triple header tomorrow. So make sure you get your lineups early tomorrow. Okay, let's get into no, I apologize, Farrell. Let's do your final question, because we're up against it. Let's do your final question for Corey Docherty tonight.
Corey, I'll ask it quickly. I need a sleeper, somebody we haven't talked about that's really going to step up and perform. And then I need your bust. I need to know the guy that everybody's going to start is going to go out and get 6 points this week. A bust last week would have been Carr at quarterback. Who would have thought that would have been so terribly bad as it was? Give me a bust. Give me a sleeper.
I don't think you guys are going to like my bust. Right before I came on, I heard you guys talking about him, but Christian Kirk, I'm just not feeling it.
Bust. That's
ballsy. I'm not feeling it.
Ballsy bust.
Any of the Jags really this week? I feel, it was an emotional win against my Titans last week. I don't foresee Evan Ingram with 2 touchdowns again. I don't foresee
in his career. I don't
foresee Zay Jones going off again.
Career, I don't foresee that happening.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, exactly. So I would stay away from Christian Kirk if you can. I know he's been up and down this year, but I would stay away this week for sure. On the other side, I don't know if it's so much of a sleeper, but Donovan Peoples-Jones.
No, you can't use him.
No, why not?
It's not a sleeper.
Why can't I use him as a sleeper?
First of all, everybody knows about Donovan Peoples-Jones. Everybody knows. I think everybody knows. If you have a hyphenated name, you get known sooner. They can't be a sleeper. And he can't be a sleeper because he's got a hyphenated name. We need a sleeper without a hyphenated name.
All right, Corey, this is the Mike Sims-Walker theorem. So DPJ is obviously eliminated from contention here. Is there a non-hyphenated player you like this week?
How about Josh Doxson, maybe?
Now you're talking. Right. There's a sleeper.
I definitely like Washington over the Giants this week. They're going to be doubling Terry McLaurin all over the field. And, his snaps percentages, targets have been going up every week since he's been back. And I like him too. I have him in a lot of leagues. He started off good. He had that terrible injury in the middle of the season for him. So I look for him to get a touchdown and 80 yards, 7 catches.
Okay. That's solid. I like the prediction too. We get a numerical prediction on the last question, which is really rare, which I appreciate it. And because you're doing that, Corey, we're going to keep you on for 2 more quick questions from the YouTube chat right now. All right. So Trevor Holt, noted KFFSC legend, is chiming in right now. we already know that Marcus Mariota is on the shelf the remainder of the season because of a knee injury, which makes Desmond Ridder the starter, which we found out last week before the Falcons bye that Ridder was going to be starting the Pride of Cincinnati, Ohio. Is Drake London better, Corey? Is he better with Desmond Ridder than he was with Marcus Mariota? For the people who have Drake London as a fringe flex, is he actually a more attractive start with Desmond Ridder than he was with Marcus Mariota?
I think he will be for sure. Marcus, they really they were cautious with him throwing the ball throughout the season. And even with Kyle Pitts, I was higher on nobody this year than Kyle Pitts. And you could see that he was ending the game with 4 targets, 3 targets. They were sheltering Marcus Mariota. And believe me, I love Marcus Mariota. I have one of his jerseys upstairs, but I just don't see it in Atlanta for him. So I pretty much think at this point anybody would be an upgrade almost, especially a rookie quarterback coming in that they're going to let loose and see what they got.
The other question we have here, I'm going to flash it for everybody. They can see this. This is from our resident Ivy League professor, Hudson Curran-Reeve from Cornell. Ever hear of it? Hashtag Andy Bernard. He wants to know, DJ Chark, or a guy we talked about earlier, Jameson Williams, who obviously has been missing the better part of most of the season. He caught that big 40-plus yard touchdown against the Minnesota Vikings. But now you have a situation in Detroit where it's him, the explosive first-round player, who is now back, versus DJ Chark, who has a combined 11 catches over the last 2 weeks. He has almost topped 100 yards. He had 98 yards against the Jaguars. He's got 94 yards against the Minnesota Vikings. If you have to make a choice here, Corey, are you playing Jameson Williams for the upside? I guess maybe that's the question. If you're trying to vault yourself up the leaderboard, maybe it's Jameson Williams. If you're just trying to tread water in a local 12-team league or what have you, maybe it's Chark. How do you look at this Lions receiving situation?
I just don't see it for Jameson. Like I said earlier, he had 2 targets and his touchdown was on a broken play, which I don't see that happening again, especially against the Jets. So if I'm leaning somewhere, I'm leaning Chark for sure. I'm going with the volume. I'm going with the experience, and he's been there all year. Goff knows him. Give me Chark.
Yeah, I sometimes don't want to play anyone against that Jets defense, but I like that. I like what you're doing there. And a tip of the hat to Trevor Holt, who asked you that question. The Balky calls you the pride of Canada. Windsor at the border, the first line of defense against all us Americans that want to come over. But Desmond Ridder is the pride of Louisville, Kentucky, and we got a lot of people down here that are very interested in seeing how he does this weekend. So, and a noted Cincinnati Bearcat who was not recruited by the University of Louisville. So there you
go. Interesting stuff. The slighted Desmond Ridder out for blood this week for the Atlanta Falcons. We certainly appreciate a guy who is out for blood in trying to win a $500,000 grand prize in the Football Guys Players Championship. 18th place heading into the championship round. He is Corey Docherty at CoreyDocs_ on Twitter. We will all continue to follow you there, Corey. I certainly appreciate you hopping aboard this week to talk about your team, your start sits in week 15 and going forward. I hope that you will be a big winner this year, cashing a 6-figure grand prize. And if so, now that you are appearing here on December 16th, 2022, in the year of our Lord, you are contractually obligated to show up if you win the $500,000 grand prize, which I assume you are cool with. If that does indeed happen, good luck. First of all, congratulations on your success so far this season. Good luck going forward. I know this is your second year playing in the Football Guys Players Championship. We will get that autograph on Farrell's football.
And I have one question. Is there a Titans player that you would not want on the football? You can text me later. You don't want to say it out. And is there one that's absolutely a favorite?
Sorry, was the first thing you said? Is there anybody?
Is there a guy that you don't want on the football? Don't say it here. Just tell me, and I'll make sure that I don't get that. You can text me later on or email me. But who would be your favorite player for the football?
it's hard to go against Derrick Henry right now, but
Okay,
maybe
that's
Taylor,
cool.
maybe Taylor Lewan too, since I don't feel like he's going to be around much longer. But
Wow. Okay. All right, very good.
Ever since Mike Vrabel said he would cut his own genitalia off to win a Super Bowl, I've been a quasi Tennessee Titans fan.
yeah,
I'm a big. I love Mike Vrabel, man.
yeah,
He
he's
might
the
be.
best.
He's a far cry in R.I.P. Mike Leach. We lost a legend this past week. He's a far cry from him, but he's on the right path. As is Corey Docherty on the right path to a $500,000 grand prize in the FPC. Corey, thanks for hopping aboard this week. We will talk with you again, hopefully soon, when you're cashing that six-figure grand prize.
Thank you very much, fellas. Take care.
Thank you. Corey Docherty, ladies and gentlemen, joining us from Ontario, Canada tonight. Certainly appreciate
Windsor.
Windsor.
From Windsor.
Windsor, exactly. So yeah, Farrell, you're the Canadian snob among us. I don't know enough. Like you're the genius when it comes to that.
I just been there. That's all
Right.
I know. I know you can see Detroit from the window, because
I was in Canada. God, this is probably almost 20 years or so ago. When I was dating my wife, my girlfriend at the time, but me and her in-laws went up to see Niagara Falls, but we took a car up there from Wisconsin to see it, and it was awesome. Like went to Wayne Gretzky's restaurant, had a great time in Toronto. I've never been to New York City, but I've heard that Toronto is sort of the New York City of Canada. Is that true?
yeah, it's got the feel. It's
Okay.
got the feel, and that wind whips off the water. You know you're in a cold weather climate if you're up there in the winter part of the year. But yeah, it's a good city. Good city. A lot of people know how to have a good time.
Yes, that I do know. That I do know for sure. All right, we have to go rapid fire through these emails tonight because we are already up against it. Let's lead off with Roger. I think it's right. Is it Roger? Trying to get my bearings straight here in these emails. Yeah, it's Roger in North Adams, Michigan. Justin Fields or Dak Prescott this week. Farrell, I love Justin Fields' legs. I love what he's doing in Chicago, but no Darnell Mooney. We found out Chase Claypool was ruled out this week, even against Philadelphia, where they should be throwing in the second half. I'm going to roll with Dak Prescott here.
Oh, yeah. You're going to roll Dak Prescott for the players around him. So, yes.
Next one, Jim in Garner, not James Garner, but Jim in Garner, North Carolina. RIP to James Garner as well. Najee Harris or Isaiah Pacheco. This is interesting this week. This is, you think about everybody who drafted Najee Harris in the first or second round of their drafts back in August or September or even earlier than that. And you think about like how they have been able to navigate themselves here to this point. That's really an accomplishment. And I think you have to keep going. Go with the flow lately. I'm going to go with Pacheco at Houston this week over Najee Harris at Carolina.
I'm going to go with Pacheco. They're trying to get him the ball more often. They're trying to get him very, very comfortable in case he has to play that role. He runs angry. He catches the ball well. He's going to get time on the field and build with his quarterback. Don't be worried. McKinnon's going to get his too. But Pacheco is the developing player here.
Maybe the more interesting question is, where does Pacheco go in drafts next year for Kansas City? That could be very interesting. Well,
sixth round.
That I think it's higher than sixth round, but we will see. I do, but we will see what happens in drafts in January and February before the NFL draft, before free agency hits. We will be breaking that down right here in the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour. Okay, this is a little bit more of an intriguing one because DJ Moore is officially listed as questionable going up against the Steelers this week. He got in a full practice Wednesday. You love it. Full practice on Thursday. Sign me up. Limited on Friday. I hate these midweek injury report downgrades. This is not good. He is coming off the second catchless game of his NFL career. And now if you have the decision between DJ Moore this week, Farrell, and George Pickens for the Pittsburgh Steelers, who probably will not have the services of Kenny Pickett. He's probably going to get Mitch Trubisky or Mason Rudolph. But George Pickens at Carolina, which way are you leaning here? I think for me, it's Pickens.
Yeah, I think for me it is too. You're not going to feel smart however it works out. You're just going to say, I got two guys that I really don't like their situations, and I've got to get lucky. I've got to flip a coin. And so you can't you can't claim to have made the right choice. You could claim to make a choice that worked out.
You can claim to make a choice. That's great. And it's true. Panthers, by the way, -3.5 in a 37.5 point total in that
could be high.
Carolina game. That is a 1:00 game. So obviously, if you are really dead set against starting, or if you really want to start DJ Moore, you will have the opportunity to either start him or bench him based on if he is active or not on 11:30 or at 11:30 on Sunday morning. Okay, final one. Yeah, it's a tight end question here, and it is from, beg your pardon here, Ron in Toms River, New Jersey, not at Two-Packer, a different Ron here. He wants to know Tyler Higbee or Dawson Knox. Okay, so Tyler Higbee is going up against the hapless Green Bay Packers defense on Monday Night Football at Lambeau Field. That's who Tyler Higbee is facing. Dawson Knox is going up against the Miami Dolphins at home, which we think is going to be a lot of snow at Orchard Park. Which way are you leaning on this one, Farrell? Assuming tight end premium format scoring, you want to go with Higbee or Knox?
What quarterback am I getting in Los Angeles, Balky? I don't think you've mentioned his name during the show.
His name is Baker Mayfield.
Baker Mayfield. Very good. I'm going to play the wild card and believe that Higbee is a consistent check down player for Baker Mayfield and could have the highest ceiling. I don't like either of these situations. Dawson Knox this year would probably have disappointed me more than Tyler Higbee has. Even in games when the Rams have not had a chance, Higbee has had good games. I like him as a target over guys like Skoranek, even though Skoranek made good catches in the drive against the Raiders. I guess I've answered this question too long. There's reasons to like Higbee. I can find more reasons than I would to like Knox.
There is no Cooper Kupp. There is no Allen Robinson. And Tyler Higbee is a guy who absolutely crushed it in the first part of the season. You think about week 1, 5 catches against the Bills, 7 catches in week 2 against the Falcons. He had a 10-catch performance against the Niners, followed it up with a 7-catch performance against the Cowboys. That said, I am rolling not with Tyler Higbee. Dawson Knox is my guy this week in the snow. You think about this, Tyler Higbee, this is a guy that a lot of people, tight end premium formats were counting on, right? Yeah. And the dude, since he got 7 catches for 46 yards against the Cowboys in week 5, Farrell, he has had one game where he had more than 4 catches. That is awful. It is not good. This is the championship round. You don't want to count on players like that. Give me a piece of the Bills offense. Give me Dawson Knox. I know it's snow. I understand it. But he's Dawson Knox. He's in Buffalo. He's used to the snow. He's used to the cold weather. The Miami Dolphins are not. I like Dawson Knox better than Tyler Higbee this week. Go with God and start Knox. Farrell, listen, this was such a treat hanging out with you. Once again on a Friday night in mid-December, the dawn of the championship round, the KFFSC championship is in the thick of it. Remind me again, Jeff Jockeen, our mutual friend, he is leading the KFFSC main event.
He's our leader Thursday night, and he dropped a few points. There's some great guys. Chuck Ewell from Louisville. Axeman is up there, our guest from last week. There's a lot of good and recognizable names but Jeff, after Thursday night's game, only dropped down about 10 or 11 points, and he has the full 600-minute complement of his players, one of the only ones in our current top 10 who has that. He's got a good team that he put together. And one thing I can say about drafting Jeff, he doesn't listen to common knowledge and chatter. So he was not afraid to draft Josh Jacobs. He was, he doesn't, he comes in with a plan and sticks to it.
I will say this for anybody who is visiting Louisville, whether it's going to be for the big game coming up in February, which you should be going to in Louisville, and taking all the action in at Caesar Southern Indiana and drafting in the KFFSC, the first leagues in the KFFSC going forward. But if you are going to the KFFSC in August next year, you make sure you find Jeff Jockeen, you buy him a drink, and you saddle up next to him and you talk his ear off, because he will tell you the best stories about the music scene in Los Angeles back in the 70s and 80s. I learned so much from him. It was fast. Chad Schroeder and today. Chad Schroeder and I were sitting there on Sunday night, Farrell, as you may or may not be aware, but we sat there like literally like this, like schoolboys, like, tell us more, Jeff. Like, it was so entertaining to hear him tell us all the great stories of what was going on in the music scene for 4+ decades. It was awesome.
And you got to drag it out of him, and if you go by the bar, it's a cheap date because he doesn't drink. He's cola's only. Yes, so I mean, it's get a little caffeine in him. He'll start telling those stories. My favorite is about when he worked with and for Debbie Harry, Blondie. Those are some good stories. And the best thing about it is that he's called upon to do it by talented people from time to time, and he does a great job.
I think one of the things I realized, we got to get Jeff Jackeen on this show.
Yeah, we got to get him on the show.
Going forward for sure. And we will have you on this show going forward, including next week. It is our holiday episode coming up on a week from today, December 23rd, when we're previewing essentially the last week of the KFFSC main event, and of course the second week of the FFPC playoff or FFPC main event and Football Guys Playoff Championship round. That's going to be exciting as well. Farrell, no other person I want to talk fantasy football with than you, and we will do so next week, my friend.
Except those guys over at RotoViz. You're busy talking to them all week. It's really, I've been talking to my agent again. He doesn't even know how to spell RotoViz. It's hard to get on there. But I don't, you just keep the Canadians coming on here. The Canadians are very entertaining people.
Yes, they are. The Canadians are I used to say they're underrated no more, because now everybody expects greatness.
Which we got to get Corey. We got to get Corey down here. We got to work with me on that. That'll be good. Thank you for having me, Balkan.
You're absolutely welcome. We will talk with you again next week. Happy, I don't know. I know
Christmas.
It's Christmas next week. Happy Hanukkah to everybody who is celebrating Hanukkah coming up next week. Farrell, be good. We will talk with you on Friday.
Thank you, sir.
Farrell Elliott, the definitive commissioner of fantasy football at KFFSC.com, at KFFSC official on Twitter, and at J Farrell Elliott on Facebook and Twitter. I want to thank Corey Docherty, Farrell Elliott, the FFPC, Rob, Bryce, and of course, each and every one of you. We are live, as I just alluded to, next Friday at 10/9 Central with another great guest as we get into week 2 of the FFPC main event and Football Guys Players Championship round. If you missed it, watch the RotoViz High Stakes Lowdown with the FFPC main event 12th place finisher. That was Jerry Kaforski. We had that on this past Tuesday. Check that out at youtube.com/FFPC fantasy or rotoviz.com/podcast. The High Stakes Lowdown returns on Tuesday. We're going to have on the FFPC main event regular season 16th place finishers. You heard them on the HSFF hour before. They're going to come on the RotoViz High Stakes Lowdown this coming week on Tuesday. Dan and Brian Jasiak, they are 16th place in the FFPC main event as they chase a $1 million grand prize. The High Stakes Fantasy Football Show on the Better Sports Network was awesome this past week on Wednesday when we got Mike Shope from the Draft Sharks Deep End Fantasy Football Podcast, as well as Buffalo Sports Radio WGR 550. It was, I think I said this to Matt Deutsch, who is former head of programming at SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio. We were talking on Thursday, and I said Mike Shope and me set a record for the most amount of information on the rundown not covered, because we just got onto other stuff like talking about fantasy football years, but we got into I don't know if anybody's ever seen the Being There movie with Peter Sellers back in the 70s. We talked about that for a while as well, but Mike and I had a great time. In case you missed that, make sure you subscribe and become a paid subscriber to the Better Sports Network app, which is free in the Google Play Store and the App Store as well. And then once you download the app, you can choose the paid subscription to get everything, not only the Better Sports Network High Stakes Fantasy Football Show with yours truly, but every single interview, every single show on demand whenever you want it. It is highly affordable and it is highly awesome. So make sure you're doing that. If you want to listen live this coming Wednesday at 10/9 Central, RotoViz owner and proprietor Curtis Patrick will be my co-host on that program. It's our holiday show. We will get into a lot of stuff with Curtis this week as we help you set your lineups for week 2 in the FFPC main event championship round and the Football Guys Players Championship round as well. Play the FFPC weekly challenge. No draft, no salary cap. Just choose 10 players or 12 players if you want to play with kickers and defenses, or if you don't, in that myffpc.com. $35 to enter, $200 to enter. You can play in a 100-team format, a 30-team format, or in the 10-team format, where if you beat the other 9 players, you will get a free entry into the 2023 FFPC main event next year. So you can play for $1 million without paying for your entry. What's better than that? Not a whole lot, in my opinion. If you are interested in the Football Guys Playoff Challenge, the world famous FFPC Playoff Challenge, both those contests are live at myffpc.com. Remember, in the FFPC Playoff Challenge, you can win $500,000 in that contest. You can win $100,000 in the Football Guys Playoff Challenge. That is only a $35 entry fee in that. Again, myffpc.com. What do I always tell you at the end of every episode? Like the video, subscribe to youtube.com/FFPC Fantasy. Comment on this video. Tell me I'm ugly. Tell me I'm overweight. Tell me I'm a moron when it comes to fantasy football. I don't care what it is. Destructive and constructive criticism equally appreciated by yours truly. So please do that as well. Share it with your friends. Tell everybody how much you love or hate this show. We appreciate either. And then click that little notification bell so you get notified, so you know when we are going live with the HSFF, or when you know we are going live with the RotoViz High Stakes Lowdown. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. We certainly appreciate it. Again, Farrell and I will be back next Friday at 10/9 Central. The weekend officially starts now.
This has been another episode of the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour presented by myffpc.com. It was broadcast live and was watched around the world. Balky and Farrell will be back next week with more analysis, more interviews, and more advice from guests much smarter than they are. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk with you again next week.
Hey, one other thing, I know I touched on it before, but I do want to remind everybody, obviously you're used to getting in your fantasy lineup on Thursday nights this week, but remember, less than 24 hours from now, quite frankly, like less than 12 hours from now, we're going to have inactives going on for that first game of an NFL triple header tomorrow. You have the Colts and the Vikings kicking off at 1 p.m. Eastern tomorrow. Then at 4:30, you have the Ravens and the Browns in a huge AFC North tilt, and then the nightcap, a huge AFC East showdown. The Tua Tagovailoa led 8-5 Miami Dolphins going to Orchard Park to take on the 10-3 Josh Allen led Buffalo Bills. Okay, so make sure that you're either signing off this video and setting your lineups tonight, or setting your alarm early tomorrow, making sure your lineups are in prior to tomorrow. Can't emphasize that enough. It's championship round. Don't mess things up on a technicality. Get your lineups in. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. We will talk with you on Christmas Eve, a week from today. Thanks, everybody.